you totally can plan a trip to Alaska. It's not overwhelming and it definitely is worth it. So I wore the Salomon. These are the X Ultra. These are the Gore Tex GTX Salomon hiking shoe, trail shoe. These are Gore Tex. They have a very good grip and sole on them. They're very super lightweight and they are waterproof. What I wanted is to make sure that the footwear that I was wearing is not going to be the limiting factor for not wanting to go on a hike. So I wanted good footwear that was lightweight, that was waterproof, and I only needed to bring one set of shoes. So this is what I brought. These were new about a month before our trip. And so I had plenty of time to kind of break them in and wear them, but they were still relatively new enough where they still had a lot of good cushion and support on the sole. So I would definitely recommend these. I did quite a bit of research on what kind of shoe to get, whether it should be a hiking boot or a high top or a low top. And the general consensus and research that I found is that lightweight trail shoes that are Gore Tex are the best and the most comfortable with the lightest weight and the least causing of like blisters or foot discomfort. So you don't want your feet and your comfort to be the limiting factor of not going on a hike. You don't want a blister. You don't want to be having wet shoes. You just don't want to waste that time worrying about that. So get some decent trail shoes. I would definitely recommend this brand. I've had a few sets of these before. They last roughly about 2 years with fairly heavy use, daily use, and they are for sure my favorite type of shoe that there is. And they did very well on all sorts of terrain all throughout Alaska. Just a quick word on what kind of clothes to wear in Alaska. So the weather can be quite variable. On average in early June, it was roughly between 50 and 70 degrees. So that's quite a range. And sometimes when the sun came out and it was super hot, it got to be close to 80 degrees. But when we were out on the ocean, it felt like 55 degrees and windy and cold with the water. So there's quite a temperature range. So the key with what clothes to wear in Alaska is to wear lots of layers and have a variety of layers. That way you can put more on if you need to, you can take more off if you need to, and you can kind of constantly fluctuate. So I had just a few things that I had. So this fleece vest. So this is kind of a windproof vest that is fleece. It's Patagonia. That was nice to have. That kept your core warm without being too heavy. It was very lightweight. I also had this hooded sweatshirt. This is again, this is a Patagonia hooded sweatshirt. I liked it with the hood option where it could have it up and over without having to have an extra hat. Or I even had a hat and then the hood over that. So that was an extra layer for my head if I needed to. But this hooded sweatshirt was a very good layering option. And then for my main coat was another Patagonia fleece coat. So this coat is super fast drying. I didn't have to worry about it getting wet at all. I didn't bring any rain gear at all because I knew that we weren't going to be like trekking out in downpours. If anything, it was just kind of like misting, light rain, and this was just fine with that. It dried super fast and kept most of the rain out. This is very lightweight and very warm. Leave your jeans at home. Don't wear jeans. Have canvas or hiking pants. Have a pair of shorts. Have good socks. Get decent socks and have a few pair of socks to bring with you as spare. You want to keep your feet dry and comfortable. Your feet are going to be one of the most important things while you're out in Alaska with hiking. So be sure you invest in decent socks. Don't just get like cotton, white, cheap socks. A good pair of socks might be $15. So get some decent pair of socks before you go. So the takeaways: dress in layers, dress in quality clothes, bring lots of options, but don't bring too much. That's why you want quality clothes over quantity. Next is money. We informed our bank of travel plans. Some places you need to inform your bank of travel plans, some not. We just did not want any credit cards to be flagged as fraudulent if suddenly their charge is being done in Alaska and not at home. So be sure to check with your credit card company that you do travel plans, and if you need to. We brought 3 credit cards. We had a primary, a secondary, and a tertiary backup. And we also had cash in various locations in case a bag or something got lost. We wouldn't suddenly just lose all of our cash. We also looked up where local ATMs were. So we knew where ATMs in different cities were in case we needed to have any sort of cash on hand, more than what we brought. I had a copy of the emergency contact information for each credit card carrier. So we knew if a credit card was lost or stolen, we could cancel that credit card during our trip relatively easily. Also, if a card got declined for being fraudulent when it's out of state charging, we could call the credit card company and verify that that charge is okay if we needed to. So by informing the credit card of our travel plans and having those 3 backups plus cash and knowing where the ATMs were, the money situation was taken care of, and so there were no problems there at all. With lodging, I had each place that we were staying printed out, the location, the phone number, the lockbox code, and directions printed out exactly where we needed to go. And that was in case we lost any sort of cell reception, and so I did not rely on any sort of maps or any other cell network. I had everything pre-printed and kind of knew exactly where everything was already, and the contact information of each place and the Wi-Fi password. So having all that printed for each place is very helpful. The next is the itinerary. So we didn't plan everything hour to hour or minute to minute. We wanted flexibility in our plan based on where we were going to be, the weather, and how we were feeling. So it's important to build those options into your plan and build a plan that is very flexible. One thing that we ran into is that one of the places that we were going to go to on a hike, there was a landslide and that road was closed. And so it was not actually a problem at all because we had alternative plans that we could just go to. We actually didn't even have to really think about it. We went there, oh, the road's closed, there's a landslide. Okay, let's go here instead. And it was very smooth and very easy. We also had people feeling like, okay, the weather's really nice. We feel good. Let's go for a hike. Great. Here we are. Here's an option. Looks like a good option. Let's go there. It was very easy. We also had other days where people were feeling tired. They maybe didn't sleep very well. Maybe the weather wasn't that great. Let's hang around and do more of a inland or more of a city type thing or an indoor thing. And that worked out well too. So we had those plans and that flexibility built into this plan. It was very easy. So when we first flew into Anchorage, one of the first places that we stopped after getting our car rental was to go to Walmart. Supplies become less available the further out from Anchorage that you go. Also, supplies and food becomes more expensive. So you have less options, less availability, and more expense the further you go away from Anchorage. So your first stop in Anchorage should be to Walmart. You can get all of your dry goods supplies, any sort of food or dry goods there. If you need bear spray or bug spray, get those also all at Walmart. That was the first step. Just stock up on everything that you need for the week right at Walmart. The next stop we went to was a place called Potter's Marsh Bird Sanctuary, which was just a few miles south of Anchorage. That was a very nice boardwalk. It's a very easy way to get introduced into more of the wildlife and the scenery of Alaska, just outside of Anchorage. That was a very, very good experience. So definitely go to Potter's Marsh Bird Sanctuary. We then had the option after that to continue on the road and go down the Seward Highway to the Turn Again Arm Trail. Or another spot would be Beluga Point. You can also stop at the Indian Valley Mine, which is a historic mine. We ended up not stopping there. There's also a place called Bird Point and Bird Ridge Trail. The next fun thing to watch was the Boar Tide. The Boar Tide is the second largest tidal swing in North America. There's only a few places in North America where there is a boar tide. And what that is, it's when the flow of the river is reversed by the rising tide of the ocean. And it creates kind of this little tidal wave. And it's very, very cool to see. We printed out a tide chart from Anchorage off of usharbors.com. And we could figure out where we were going to be to watch the boar tide at turnout number 5 or number 4 for the best views of the boar tide. And we calculated where we were going to be, both going away from Anchorage on our way out on our trip and the way back from our trip, coming back towards Anchorage. So those are the 2 times that we were going to be at that area. So what we did is we just coordinated our travel plans to match within those times. The tide ends up being about 2 hours and 15 minutes after the low tide in Anchorage. So you want to be at those turnouts about 2 hours and 15 minutes after low tide in Anchorage to be able to see the boar tide. We were there a little bit early because we didn't want to miss it. We ended up waiting about 45 minutes, which actually wasn't bad. It was nice to sit around and just kind of enjoy the view of the water and the mountains. And then this wave started to come in, and it was very, very cool to see that. So it's definitely worth trying to coordinate your tide chart with your travel plan to be at these areas to witness the boar tide. And again, that's at the Turn Again Arm on just outside of Anchorage, down the Seward Highway.